Uh, okay. Good morning and namaskar, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone in person here and to all those who have joined online. Special thanks to Sanjeev Bhai Sahab and Reena Bhavi from the DC area, Raghunath Uncle Ji from Chicago, Devenji and Meera Ji from Toronto, and Pradeep Bhai Sahab and Anita Bhavi from the New Jersey area. Welcome to the first session of Ramashram Satsang Mathura's meditation retreat here in Cleveland. First, let me start with a few words about Ramashram Satsang. Ramashram Satsang was founded by Dr. Chaturbhuj Sahayaji, whom we at Ramashram Satsang refer to as our Guru Maharaj. He was a fully accomplished spiritual master who founded Ramashram Satsang at the direction of his Guru, Ramchandra Ji Maharaj. Guru Maharaj devoted his entire life and worked tirelessly to bring peace, happiness, and joy to everyone who came in contact with him. Using his foundation of a deep knowledge of religious texts and supplementing it with his own experiences while on his spiritual journey, he founded this efficient and very effective meditation practice that focuses on dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. These are the internal limbs of yoga, out of the 8 limbs of yoga or Ashtanga Yoga as described by Maharishi Patanjali. Love for everyone was a central part of his message, and he considered it an essential component for spiritual progress. Guru Maharaj believed where religion, caste, and sects divided Indian society, Guru Maharaj was a visionary, much ahead of his times, and he talked about God as a form of universal energy that transcends all religions and sects, and welcomed everyone into this practice. No one has to change their belief system to benefit from this practice. Instead, Guru Maharaj used to describe this practice as a supplement to whatever religious or spiritual endeavor one was already a part of. The topic that we will focus on today is mental resilience. Mental resilience is commonly defined as an ability of a person to cope with, adapt to, and recover from stressful adverse events. It is frequently equated to the ability for a person to bounce back from adversity. While all of the above are true, the scope of mental resilience, as Sanjeev ji often says, is much broader and is very integral in our daily lives. The spectrum of mental resilience extends all the way from bouncing back from small setbacks, all the way to attaining a state, a mental state, where one remains even keeled in the face of adversity, or a state of equanimity, where calm and steadiness remains undisturbed in the face of all trials and obstacles. With that, it is my privilege and honor to introduce our speaker and facilitator for today, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Ji, or Sanjeev Bhaiya, or Sanjeev Bhai Sahab, as we call him. Sanjeev Bhai Sahab is the grandson of our Guru Maharaj and an IT executive here in the US. He coordinates, plans, and is the main driving force behind all Ramashram Satsang activities in the US, including a newly developed web community and website, podcasts, online newsletters, weekly online meditation sessions on Saturday at 10 a.m., and in-person retreats on weekends like this one in different cities across the US. His presence is always special for all of us, and we feel blessed that he has been able to join us in person today. Again, we extend a very warm welcome to him, and now I will turn it over to him to talk further about today's topic, just mental resilience.
So, before we talk about mental resilience, and I think this workshop, I think online has almost been there since the pandemic. Slowly, the more I think about it, it's doing what Guru Maharaj did. It's just for the uninitiated, get them to understand what meditation and mindfulness really means and experience it and evaluate it and see if it works. As Anitaji was saying, we want to supplement it now with newsletter and more in-person activities, and this is one. This year, I think Philadelphia, Virginia, Toronto, Germany. I think there was just recently there was a session in Leeds. So we will continue this process where somehow from virtual we need to start focusing. Satsang evolved as an in-person thing, and so the first thing that comes to me right now is gratitude. This gratitude that we're so blessed in so many ways to be here. When I think about mental resilience, let me tell you. So last year I was reading a book that I have read probably, I mean, it'll be an exaggeration, but hundreds of times, a 7-volume book that my grandfather wrote ages ago, still is, every time I read it, and I have heard this from so many people, there is, the gems continue to come out. So last year I was reading about Sahat Samadhi. Now, Sahat Samadhi is where, Kabir Das ji actually quotes it, Aankh na moondu, kaan na roondu, khule nain niharu. So I don't have to close my eyes, close my ears. I just, with open eyes, I see the beauty. And, perceive what people, would talk about as God, or we refer it as transcendental energy. This ability to live in a way that every moment is a blessed moment. So I was reading about one of his chapters where he talks about Sahat Samadhi, Samavastha, and then I realized that if there is a person, which I have seen the leaders in Satsang do this, gain or loss, there is happiness, sadness, situations which are very tough versus, where people think that they are on the top of the world. They're just even keel. And the more I read that chapter, I said, I mean, if that is not mental resilience, then what is? There was another, so while I was reading, I was just thinking that nobody told me that, but, if you read the book Anti-Fragile, they are saying that from adversity, tragedy, very difficult situations, um, moments of grief. There are people who come out of that stronger. And so the author describes that as the systems, thoughts, and actions which make us thrive, not survive, but thrive adversity. And I have actually seen some of that in my early childhood. And, when I look at the systems, ideas, and people that don't just survive stress, volatility, disorder, but grow stronger because of them. So that's how Nassim Taleb, in his Anti-Fragile book, describes. So he gives another example that, say, if there's a candle, there is an oil lamp. What you would find is the wind actually extinguishes that. If the wind takes off, it's extinguished. But then if you look at the flip side, if there is fire, the wind actually makes it grow bigger and bigger. So wildfires we see, with wind, it just goes and become bigger and bigger. So what he says with that example is that the fragile things break, but anti-fragile thrives. So we have to think of like resilience. Here, the more I read about resilience, it's in the context of very big situations, very big setbacks, and how do you come out of that? Military has a program for resilience, but I feel that we deal with ups and downs every day. We need mental resilience every day. Adapting to these things. So what do we need to do? So behaviors, thoughts, and actions. And, so if you look at some of the current research, one of the things that's coming up quite a bit, like neuroscience is actually helping us realize what, for ages was pretty clear to a lot of people is that mindfulness and meditation actually does things which in the long term and the short term could help us a lot. So one of the concepts is neuroplasticity. And the more research that's coming up, so interestingly, if we, like through satsang, or there are so many other ways that you can be mindful and adopt different types of meditation. So what that gives is calm, reflection, and optimism. So what these things do is that they shrink the amygdala and increase the prefrontal control. So what does that do? The emotional alarm system in the amygdala, if that is somewhat regulated, your stress will be regulated. If the prefrontal cortex has better control than the rational decision making instead of the emotional reactive behavior. So that'll happen. So some of the another thing, there's a lot of there's a growing literature and research on positive psychology, and that comes to my mind too. So there are these three concepts: perception or perspective, and acceptance and action. So if we look at just the perspective, acceptance, and action, so there is what positive psychology talks about is that if we look at the situation that we're dealing with a slightly different perspective, and mindfulness and meditation helps us do that. But then there is another thing that some of us are not wired to do, is acceptance. So if we accept the situation the way it is without denial and resistance, and emotional willingness to acknowledge, so that some of the research is saying, like, before you change, a prerequisite to change is acceptance and then action. Even small break in the inertia, any small action that you take, that helps. So that is probably what mental resilience is. But then how do you strengthen your mental resilience muscle? So gratitude. So remembering, writing, talking about what you're thankful for increases the optimism and life satisfaction tied to it. Cognitive reframing. And I actually experimented this recently with some people who were really dealing with deep problems. So if you challenge the negative patterns and replace them with constructive ones, dramatic change happens. Physical exercise improves mood, reduces stress, builds confidence, very key. And then more and more research is showing that what is integral to satsang is like social connection. And it actually helps the well-being. And above all, mindfulness and meditation. And I think, call it anti-fragile or call it mental resilience, I think it's integral to mindfulness and meditation. It's kind of inner strength that it builds, on which we can then build up our, spiritual growth or vertical growth that takes us to higher states. So typically in the workshop, we open up for interaction, questions, comments, thoughts after. But let's first get into it. Let's first meditate. Let's get in, connect with ourselves, ground ourselves, center ourselves first. So, the traditional prayers we have converted to music. So we'll start with music. Music helps concentration. But before that, we want to focus inwards. So two things that help a lot with inward orientation is that we, close our eyes, because sensory input through the eyes distracts us. So close your eyes. And now observe your body. Make sure there is no strain, and it's absolutely a comfortable pose, a posture. Every time your body moves, your mind moves with it, right? So sensory input through the eyes, bodily movement related distraction, we want to minimize. So eyes lightly closed and still and relaxed posture. Now think of the presence of this transcendental energy in form of light. The source is right here, right now, conscious source of your choice, but it's here. We don't have to reach out anywhere. And through that source, this transcendental of the transcendental energy, the transcendental, it's in form of transcendental light, and that light is entering our heart and distributing throughout our body, and we're becoming one with this light. So I'll repeat this again. Eyes slightly closed, relaxed and still posture. And we think of this transcendental energy in form of light that's coming straight into our heart, enlightening it, and then distributing throughout the body. And we are becoming one with this light. We are becoming the light. We'll start with music. The music fades away, and then we go deep into silent meditation of this transcendental energy. And then we'll transition out with music again. Let's start now. typically, in this workshop, after the meditation, we start interaction, thoughts, questions, comments, including people online. A lot of people here in person. But we also have, so I have kind of decided that, spiritual wisdom is great. We are born with, and brought up with it. But then neuroscience is actually helping understand why some of the things that were being done are important. Uh, so in this process of bringing neuroscience and spiritual wisdom together, we're taking a deep dive. And Ajayji and Raghunathji have some deeper conversations on mental resilience that we have taken as one of the topics. Mental resilience to me is not one-dimensional. It's self-discipline, courage, grit, inner strength, self-management, and above all, emotional regulation. One of the bigger problems that we have today is that we get more driven by the mind, and what that leads to typically is several types of emotional regulation issues. But anyway, so let's open it up. Let's talk a little bit, start the interaction, and then in due course, either Ajayji, Raghunathji, and others will take that opportunity and discuss some of the deep dive discussions on mental resilience, or we'll take a little bit of time and do that in the process. So the biggest problem usually is how to break the ice. Is there someone who would do that?
Namaskar, Sanjeev Bhaiya.
Namaskar, Dipali, how are you?
Dhok Sanjeev Bhaiya, I'm so sorry. I wish I was there, but I'm definitely there in my spirit. Sanjeev Bhaiya, I had a question.
Wow.
Sanjeev Bhaiya, there's so much turmoil in the world around us. Every day you hear something that you're like, this is just, and every day it just goes to a new low. So, and then mind gets very, very disturbed and just cannot get those thoughts out of your mind, and it just disturbs your peace. At the same time, you feel that there are people out there who are going through this. So how do you tackle these conflicting, how do you still find peace? And that's about things that are so disturbing.
So very interesting. Actually, this I'll deflect, as well as I'll say two things. One, in May, we started a Satsang newsletter on Substack. And, it's actually going pretty well. I personally feel a lot of things are being, discussed there that we should, as collective, discuss. But one of the most interesting things is that one video that I recorded a few years ago, I posted about how do we live in peace in toxic circumstances. It could be at work, it could be in the community, in the world we live in. And that has, I don't know, the most reactions. So I'll forward that, and I think Ajayji and Taji, I think you can forward it to people here. Would like to see some comments there. But bottom line is, if I put that in two lines, the summary of that video and the article is how we react to things depends on where we are internally. So world has events and we react from what I would call the internal state. Now, interestingly, Upanishads gave a model of from a very materialistic or very, call it a lower state to a higher or the highest state of awareness, consciousness. So Upanishads gave a Panchkoshya Vidya, which is basically 5 layers or 5 realms. And depending on which realm do you react from, you will react differently. And, the higher the state, the more closer you are to that Sahat Samadhi we were talking about earlier, where, you don't get perturbed at all. Obviously, that vertical, if you want to rise vertically, it takes effort, it takes practice, and that's why we tend to just go we move horizontally rather than vertically, which is like past becomes present, then past, present, future. We move in the horizontal scale, but are we learning? Are we becoming better every day? Are we rising to higher states as we grow, as we age? That's a big question mark. So, being right here. But definitely, I think that's it. This question just gives me the opportunity to talk about the 5 realms that you need to cross to go to the highest states. And that's what the path that you take when you want to vertically climb through mindfulness and meditation. The flip side is that mental resilience to me is the foundation of any vertical growth. And I think that's without that, I think we cannot be at peace. We cannot be really evolving to a better human being.
I have a question for you.
Hi, Gagi. How are you feeling?
Great. By grace of Jiyama, everything is wonderful. Question,
go ahead.
so when we talk about mental resilience, how important is the physical health? Does physical health contribute to mental resilience, or mental resilience help with physical health?
Actually, now the second one. So there is a TED talk on mental resilience, which starts. So this guy does a plank. That's how that TED talk starts. Basically, he says that if you can, do some strengthening exercises, and actually, if you look at the military preparations, a soldier prepares and prepares and prepares and prepares for the eventual, battle, fight, all that. So they are being prepared to be more mentally resilient, but through all the preparation is actually first build the physical resilience. So to be a resilient being, there are three dimensions: physical resilience, mental resilience, and spiritual resilience. And they're so interconnected. So in the 19th chapter, in the 28th chapter, the 7-volume book, Sadhana Ke Anubhav, Maharaj actually starts by saying that yogis, people, sages, and all these people who got to the higher ground initially collect through concentration, through meditation, through other, physical actions. They get, they need to be physically well, but they gain this mental strength, and then this mental strength is used to go spiritually higher. So he says that it's a foundation. Without that, you cannot achieve the higher goals. But if we stick to the question, physical resilience and mental resilience are absolutely, totally interdependent. And that is why, if you look at Maharishi Patanjali's, Ashtanga Yoga, so asanas, pranayams, yam, and niyam, if you really look at all that, so yes, yam and niyam is a lot to do with the behavior, but asanas and pranayams are completely and totally devoted to physical wellness. Physical wellness is what will prepare you for the pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, which Sunitaji was referring to. And that builds upon that. So basically, to be a wholesome being, to be a really resilient person, you've got to be working on physical resilience as well. But
if you're sick,
yeah, if you're sick
with a disease,
and deeper, what they actually in US now, a lot of hospitals are, having more and more mindfulness and meditation programs, because even when you are very deeply unwell, you tweak it, keep it lighter, but again, we were talking about reflection. So calming down, reflection, and optimism, right? So reflection and optimism actually does very, very significant change in how our brain works. And that leads to this optimism and positive psychology effects. And there are now numerous research that is showing that this mindfulness helps, wellness, or even those who are very unwell. This actually makes their day-to-day life much better. And to Gargi, I always say, just Guru Maharaj actually very clearly said that sit, close your eyes, connect, feel the presence, and this connection to the source of transcendental energy should provide you this inner strength. And he actually, in some context, he said, you should grab and extract as much energy as you can. Like if you have capability to connect to the energy and absorb that energy, just continually do that. That's so his formula, his prescription, his process is that you at all times think about this higher and strong source of energy and just continually, um, refresh and retain and absorb this energy continue. So, yeah.
I'll try to answer the Bali's question.
Great. So reverting back.
I already did. So our question was, how do we cope with the outside influence? Let's go back to Buddha. Who ever seen his life? First, he's sitting under Bodhi tree. He's sitting under Bodhi tree, doing meditation, taking a vow that he will not get up. He will get enlightenment. Wow. Which in Pali means Maya, attacks. With all the forces, everything. Gautam, at that time, was not Buddha, Gautam Siddhartha doesn't get up. Every attack of Maya fails. And Buddha gets it up. And he becomes Buddha, enlightened one. But that, how did he get there? Meditation. He was meditating and he didn't let that go. So through meditation, he becomes Buddha. So that's that. So what that also means that inner resilience. He developed inner resilience to the extent that nothing bothers him. Now the second effect. He has become a Buddha now, the father. He goes into a forest, tries to goes into a forest. Everyone tells him not to go there because Angulimal stays there, and Angulimal is such a vicious bandit that he used to kill people, cut their finger, take the bone, and through that bone he made what you call necklace, something like that. Necklace, something like that. Everybody tried to stop Gautam. Don't go there. He goes there. He walking. Angulimal sees him, and his sword, he comes towards Buddha. Angulimal tells him, stop. And Buddha said probably the most profound sentence. He said, I have stopped, Angulimal, you haven't stopped. I have stopped, you haven't stopped. By that the Buddha meant, I'm no longer under the influence of anything. I have stopped hatred. I have stopped all kinds of things. You haven't, Angulimal, you haven't. Probably that was the most profound statement ever made. That transfer, Angulimal, that statement transferred Angulimal to become a, he drops his sword, transforms himself, and becomes monk. So what that did? That resilience, that personal resilience that Buddha had, it transformed into social resilience. That power. So regarding your question, have to have that inner resilience to stop the other to stop, not only to stop, to transform us. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, Pali got answered twice. So, Louis, Christy, anything?
Happy Saturday, everyone. Full house. I'm a bit shy,
Yeah.
but no, I had a beautiful meditation as always, and the topic is very, very much relevant to. I mean, the topics are always relevant, but I do think mental resilience is of particular need in these what appears to be turbulent times. Just look at the news, right? It just feels a little bit more turbulent than other times. It's an interesting question about physical, what helps more, physical versus, or physical and mental resilience. I think if you're not feeling well, mental resilience can be impacted. And if you're not mentally feeling well, physical resilience can be impacted. So yes, I agree that they are really interconnected, actually. I think in some ways though, and I remember this from a meditation class I once attended at a Buddhist temple, and they were talking about someone who was like incapable. She was like bedbound because of an illness, so she really couldn't move. And I think she was probably in pain, but she was still able, at the very least, with a lot of discipline and a lot of dedication, she was still able to meditate. So in some ways, I feel like mental resilience can really pull through, even if the other two are, if you're struggling with the other two types of resilience, like mental resilience can still, I mean, maybe they all play a role. Maybe they're all sort of like, they can all be activated when needed, when that's the only thing you can do. But I remember hearing a very moving story about someone who was bedbound, couldn't really do much, but she meditated and it really helped her. So mental resilience is of particular importance, I suppose, or something that we can definitely exercise, at the very least, even if maybe the other two are, it's a challenge. I just wanted to share that.
So yeah, we'll wait for like in person in Virginia now, trying that too. So Arvindji, anything you can connect some of the discussions we have had on the topic?
Namaskar, Bhaiya, and Namaskar, everyone. Very fortunate to join once again by Guru Maharaj's grace this weekend. What's being discussed, as Luz was saying, is indeed not just topical, but essential these days. And the questions were all quite relevant that have been beautifully answered. My only single thought was that the physical health, indeed, I cannot but strongly agree, is linked directly, as you rightly said, Puji Bhaiya. There's very strong evidence, for example, that meditation, transcendental meditation, deep meditation, downregulates cytokines, which is the, cytokines are inflammatory processes in our body. And when we are ill, they are upregulated. But sometimes they go overboard and bring more harm to us in any disease conditions. So cytokines and inflammatory processes are downregulated, and there's plenty of evidence and published papers on that with meditation processes. Also, the basic human physiology of, for example, hypothalamus pituitary axis, where the adrenal cortical and noradrenergic axes are also down-regulated and parasympathetic processes are up-regulated. So there is the, cortisol, which is a very destructive, can be destructive, with stress, with disease processes. So excess cortisol is also down-regulated in meditation. So once again, extremely fortunate to join. Guru Maharaj's meditation is beyond any science, and science is struggling. I repeat this, science is struggling to catch up and trying to prove things that Guru Maharaj wrote and said to us from 1930. So again, thank you again. Namaskar.
Yeah, so good to have such interaction from online, which usually it's the other way around. But should we turn it in person here? Any thoughts, questions, comments before we wrap up?
First of all, thank you, Saab and everybody for an enlightening discussion. The only thought that was coming to my mind about the efficacy or the use of meditation in building mental resilience. So, like you referred to Maharishi Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, and how Guru Maharaj's meditation, it focuses on pratyahar, in dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, the internal limbs. So if we look at the process that we just did, in which we tried to focus on one thought, and I'm sure invariably, everybody's mind wanders, and then we try to bring it back to the same thought. So that process, when the mind wanders and we try to bring it back, is pratyahar. And the act of concentrating on one thought is dharana. So when we practice this, where we every day, morning and evening, do this exercise of focusing of our mind on one thought, and then when it wanders, bring it back, it gives us mental strength. And there is ample psychological and neurological evidence about how the brain develops with meditation. But just the act of trying to keep your mind focused on one thing and bringing it back to where you want it to be is actually an integral part of how we develop mental resilience. As in various psychological papers and everything, they have described many things, like how do we build mental resilience. And they talk about connectivity, they talk about healthy living, they talk about remaining purposeful. And so all of these things, the underlying mechanism for us to be able to do all those things is mental resilience. And what that is that, like, when adversity strikes, we are kind of drawn in a whirlpool of negativity. So at that time, we need mental strength to stand our ground and focus our thought on positivity. That is the only way one would be able to become resilient, because you would not give in to negativity, but foster positive thoughts and actions. So that process is identical to the pratyahar and dharana that we do in this meditation practice. So if you are continually training our mind to focus where we
wanted to focus, we are actually preparing for the rainy day every day of our life. Adversity may not strike, and we may never need it in that way. But if it does, and if we are, sucked into a whirlpool of negativity, it is that training that we have had every day over months and years that we can focus or channelize our thought process to the process that we wanted to think about. That really is directly connected, I think, to mental resilience. And I was reading a book in which they were giving an example of adversity and adverse circumstance, like losing a job. And when that happens, the book was saying that you can go two ways. You can either go into complete negative situation where you ruminate about this happened, that happened, and all those things. But if you want to take a positive route, you can first look inside and see, was there anything that I could have done differently which would have avoided this? And if the answer is yes, that gives you a chance to improve. And if that answer is no, then you are just a victim of a mega trend or something like that, then you can see what the trends are in the world right now and try to change your skill set to match the opportunities that are present at that time. But to do all that in the face of negativity and is very difficult. So for us to be able from that negative situation to focus on positive things, positive outcomes, and think positively is not that easy. But this everyday meditation where we are trying to focus our mind and channelize our thoughts in one direction is a direct help. It's a direct practice that we are doing, which helps in building mental resilience. So we don't have many rituals in our practice here. There is just one thing that we have. We offer prasad to Guru Maharaj, and this sessions that we do, as Bhai Sahib was saying, that we think that the actual source of that transcendental energy is in front of us, and we do it in the presence of that source. And so we have offered whatever we have offered to him. We will, with gratitude, offer this prasad to him and ask him to bless us all. We will just meditate for 2 more minutes. Okay.
All right, so we'll wrap up the session today. There are 2 more traditional sessions this weekend here in Cleveland, but glad that we were here in Satsang. Let's continue the virtual sessions every Saturday. See you all.
Yeah.
नमस्कार जी, सबको नमस्कार।
नमस्कार महिमा जी,
प्रणाम भैया।
नमस्कार
चरणों में सादर प्रणाम।
Luz, Stacy, Omkar, Energy. And thanks, Pablo and Juan. Thank you so much.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, everyone. We'll see you all soon.
भैया नमस्ते सभी को।
प्रणाम भैया।
जी सभी को प्रणाम।
नमस्कार संजीव भैया, सभी को नमस्कार।